Morning, Raptor Freak Alexios here. Thursday Think Tank. And like last week, I put DeAndre Ayton on the cover. And it's not really because I want a DeAndre Ayton deal to happen. I just want to make a disclaimer about this first place because last week there was a lot of confusion about my Gobert Think Tank last week. It's just as part of the Thursday Think Tank theme, I'm going to pick the name that's kind of been bantied around for the last week in speculation about possibly coming to Toronto for the year. And it's not that I endorse or want a deal for DeAndre Ayton. It's just that this is something that is realistically something that could happen because of the current situation with him and the Phoenix Suns. Now, some people have said, well, they think that he's still going to re-sign there, but I think that there's a lot of problems there right now for him, and that he will be looking for an exit out of there, and that this team is going to want him to leave. Also, that is the way that the situation looks like to me, unless they mend some fences and they figure some things out. But as I said yesterday, the writing's on the wall as far as they did not give him an extension last summer, and that he's been kind of floating without any kind of known future with the team or not, and that may be a tell in itself that the Phoenix Suns have not committed to him financially, and that this is how they want it to work out in some way like that. Some people would say, well, that's a great center, why would they do that to him? Well, who knows? Maybe they put more weight into their other players around him, and that they're more important, and that they want to invest in people like Bridges and Booker and other young players that they've got on the team coming up. And Aiton may not be in their long-term plans. Part of it is maybe look at the four teams that are playing right now. We've talked about this already a little bit this week, that the four teams that are left in the playoffs play small ball. They do not play with a big center. There's no Nikola Jokic. There's no Joel Embiid involved in the last four teams. And that is showing the trend of the NBA going away from having a big pivot. And this is why maybe Bobby and Masai have not given us a big pivot on our team in the last couple years. That they want to stay as big as Kem, and that's it. They don't want to go any bigger than him. Monique's here. Good to see Monique. Hey, Lex, up super early for this one. Busy morning. The topic I was waiting for. All right. I love it, Monique. Today is all about a think tank. We, as positive Raptor fans, meet at 9:30 a.m. on Thursday morning to think about things for the future for the Raptors to get to another championship, to get to that second Larry O'Brien trophy for the Toronto Raptors franchise. And this is what this day is all about, is just brainstorming, scheming, thinking, talking about what is possible for the Raptors to improve and get that one step closer to reclaiming the championship of the NBA once again. And today we're exploring the idea of Ayton. DeAndre Ayton. This is one of the best centers in the league, in my opinion, in a lot of ways, guys. I like his mobility. To me, in some ways, DeAndre Ayton reminds me of David Robinson, that he has that same kind of height and up and down the court. Now, he doesn't shoot as well as him in some ways, but he is still an offensive center that can get you points and do low post stuff and things like that. There's a lot of good strengths to him. And obviously, hopefully, he would be better against a player like Joel Embiid or Nikola Jokic as far as his size and stuff. But there is a cost. If we were to get DeAndre Ayton, that would mean we'd have to give up something for him, because the only way that we'd be able to get him is through a sign and trade, probably. This would be where Phoenix would do something like what we did with Kyle Lowry last year. They would sign him to a contract, and then they would trade him for some of our players. And the way it would probably work is like Ayton's contract would probably be around 16 million. That means that he'd probably have to get traded maybe straight up for OG Anunoby, something like that. It wouldn't be somebody as much as Pascal, but it would be somebody like in the middle in there somewhere. Raymond Jacob is here. Good to see you this morning, Raymond. Our defense, I'm okay with. It's offense they need to improve first. Please improve the three-point shooting and space that floor up. Yeah, so this is a difference in priorities. Some in the camp of the Raptors say we need a true center. We need a true big guy that can guard Joel Embiid if we have to play them in the playoffs again. And then some in the camp are like Raymond. And you know what? I'm more and more like leaning towards what Raymond is saying at this point. That is more important for us to fill this summer as a void is better shooters. Is we need more 3-point shooters off the bench, guys like Georges Niang, guys like Max Strus that can fill up the three for us and just open up the floor with spacing because they have to come out and guard them. Half the problem with the Raptors offense this year and the zone defense killing us was that our outside shots weren't dependable. So people laid off of us. They played the zone real tough, packed down. And that is something we can't allow teams to do to us this next year. We have to improve our outside shooting percentage so that things can open up real nice for people to have lanes to go to the basket. And that's the best way to do it. So, you know what? In a lot of ways, I think that this is number one on the list, other than maybe re signing Boucher and stuff like that, is getting some capable offensive shooters and scorers off the bench, specifically 3-point shooters. That is a very high priority this summer. That we reload the bench with some better offensively capable players and stuff like that. Raymond's adding to this. Don't need a superstar center. I think having backup centers when we need them occasionally is good to have. Yes. I like what Raymond's proposing here. It's like you don't need a full-on center all the time. We look at how Boston, Miami, Golden State are playing. They don't play with centers. James Wiseman did not work out in Golden State in a lot of ways. So they don't have the center they wanted. So Draymond is still having to play center, him and Kevon Looney. And then you have Miami who's playing Bam Adebayo at center. The Celtics, they don't really play a center. Robert Williams III is really the biggest guy they have. And he's a center kind of, but is he really a center in some ways? No. So it's really kind of like that. That's the future is you want to have that middle, all around kind of feel. To me, it's kind of like, all right, when you're playing Mario Brothers, you had Mario Brothers 2, Super Mario Brothers 2, you could play 4 different characters. You had Mario, Luigi, Princess Peach, and Toad. And each of those 4 characters had different things. Like Luigi could jump really, really high, and Princess could fly a little bit, and Toad was very strong and like pulling things out. Well, listen, Mario is all around. He's always been kind of the average for the whole any video game he's in. He'll do everything kind of in the middle. And that's kind of where NBA teams are getting to. They're not like Luigi where they need the really high, tall center or something like that. It's more like you want to have a Mario kind of roster where you have everything kind of average, everything kind of able to do everything, interchangeable, positionless. This is what we're talking about. And that a center inherently is not positionless because it is so limited by getting up and down the court. So I like what Raymond's saying is that you have the center just for very specific situational things where you're in trouble or things are happening in a certain way. Then you bring them out to be that physical presence on a large pivot that's killing you. And otherwise, you run the way we did this past year with the personnel that we've had. And maybe you just have that center as a backup just in case somebody is absolutely eating us up in the pivot. So, yeah, I think that that's right. And I think that, as I've made this new analogy, that our team needs to be more like a Mario roster, an all around average roster, not too little, not too big, right in the middle, can do everything from the middle. And with our positionless scheme and the players being so versatile and able to do everything on the court all at the same time. So, yeah, I like what Raymond is saying. And I tend to very much agree with his strategies that he's saying here today. The shooting and then being versatile with the positionless and not being bogged down with the slower center. The reason why I like Ayton is I don't see him as a slower center. And that to a degree, I don't know how he would fit in with positionless, whether he would be able to come out and guard a guard on the outside perimeter. But it seems like he may be better for switchability than maybe, say, somebody like Joel Embiid. That he may be a better switcher in some ways. Monique saying Chris Boucher is doing his camps again this summer. Get your kids involved. Yeah, if you got kids, go take them to Chris Boucher camp. This man has still got his ties here in Toronto. He's doing a camp here in the Toronto area, and that's fantastic. That makes me feel good. That makes me hope and pray that we are going to sign him as soon as we can, and he will be a Toronto Raptor in a Toronto Raptor uniform next year. But that is a good sign if he's holding camps here. If he was just holding them in Montreal, I would be a little worried because that's what normal for him. But he's still having them here in the GTA, which is really awesome. Monique is still on that Mo Bamba train. Yes, I like this. I like this. I think Mo Bamba, there has been more chatter about him not possibly being with Orlando next year, and that maybe we can make it happen. Let's make it happen. Bring Mo Bamba to Toronto and let him be this mobile center, this not superstar center, but in the middle, not a horrible guy who can't really play in the league, but a guy that's not like a max contract super center like Ayton or Gobert, but a guy who can be paid a very like kind of like average salary compared to everybody else on the team, and that can run up and down the court and keep up with our guys that like to push the ball. Mo Bamba, yes, that gets my seal of approval, Monique, and I am on that train with you. Let's sit up in the front with the conductor and go choo choo, because we are on that Mo Bamba train. We want him to get in a Raptors uniform for next year. That is a one that I think is realistic and is actually right in the bullseye of what should happen possibly to make things really awesome and good change for our team and stuff like that. So Mo Bamba, yes, thumbs up. 2 thumbs up. All right. Another thing that happened yesterday is they announced the all rookie team. We knew that this was going to happen soon, and we knew that our guy Scotty was going to be on that first team. There was no doubt about it. When do you ever get rookie of the year and you don't get on the all rookie team? That doesn't happen. But the other choices were very interesting. Like, a lot of people are crying foul over Josh Giddey being on the second team. That his amazing play for Oklahoma City, he did have some pretty impressive stats for a rookie. And he's a very special, interesting kind of rookie last season. That Jalen Green got on the first team all rookie over him. And a lot of people say that's bullshit. That's crazy. And I tend to agree with them to a degree. To me, Jalen Green is kind of like one of these athletic guys who's very flashy, but he's not necessarily a winning NBA player. And that's why it's really fitting that he's on Houston, is that this is a team that's very flashy, but isn't necessarily a winning team. And Jalen Green is a good leader for that. And for me, the part of the reason why Scotty Barnes won the Rookie of the Year is because he is a winning kind of guy in the opposite kind of way. He's not necessarily an athletic, I'll put on some highlights and do something interesting on the court kind of guy, although he does do that sometimes. His number one priority is winning and making winning plays and doing the little things, the bread and butter that adds to helping the team win, whatever it takes. That's Scotty Barnes. And that's part of the reason why he won Rookie of the Year. And people don't realize that. Some people still don't understand why Scotty won Rookie of the Year over Cade or Evan Mobley. They're still like, why did he win? They didn't watch Toronto, and they didn't understand how much of an impact he had on us, helping us to get to the playoffs and be a winning team this year. That is something that is intangible and really important and really shows something. So NBA fans that don't understand why Scotty Barnes is Rookie of the Year, you need to go watch his highlights. You need to go see his all-around play, and you need to go see exactly what he was doing on the court this year, because he was helping in all kinds of crazy good ways and stuff like that. So, but yeah, the rookie teams were very interesting. I don't disagree with them for the most part. I do kind of disagree with what most people are saying about Giddey and Green, that should have maybe been flipped as far as the first and the second team. All right, Evelyn's here. I wonder if she's still in the LBC with this new DOGG. Let's see, Evelyn, what are you saying? Good morning. Granny just planned the last night. Oh, just planed in last night. Good. Miss you guys. Be listening. Okay, Evelyn's back. She's back in the East Coast time. She's away from the West Coast she went on her family trip to see her family and hang out in California and Las Vegas. All kinds of fun going on for Evelyn in the recent weeks. And we're glad you're back safe and back in Toronto. And hopefully the weather's better now since when you left, Evelyn, in Toronto. It's much better now. Monique is saying, how come Bobby hasn't spoken yet? Makes me think. Well, this is something interesting. Like at the end of the season, we do these exit interviews, and usually it's either the coach does his, some of the players do theirs, and then we had Masai Ujiri do his press conference, 45 minutes. Always love those. And then Bobby sometimes does his also, but a lot of people are saying they just love when Masai does it. And then sometimes we get upset when Bobby does it and Masai isn't there to do it. It's kind of like we want Masai to do those end of the year kind of things. And Bobby is really kind of the grunt. Like he's the dude that's on the phones constantly. He's the guy who's feeling things out. He's the guy doing this wheeling and dealing on the phone, trying to figure out deals with people or see what's possible. And that he's really super busy doing all that kind of stuff. And some people have also said that Bobby, when he does the press conferences, he's very kind of clammed up in some ways. Like he will not answer questions like Masai will and stuff like that. So in some ways, it's kind of like I'd rather Masai do the press conferences than Bobby and let Bobby just do his job. But I also understand what you're saying too, Monique. It is kind of like suspicious that Bobby Webster has not spoken to the public or the press at all yet. But it may be that he's going to wait until we do something and then he'll show up and he'll have his press conference and he'll talk about whatever move he made, whether it's re-signing Chris Boucher, making a small deal for Mo Bamba, or making a huge home run deal for something crazy also. So yeah, when we see Bobby come, it'll be fun. It'll be interesting to hear what he says. And I'm not saying he's not interesting to listen to, but Masai is way like more interesting as an interview. And that I like Bobby too. He's real slick and he's just very measured with his answers. You can tell when they ask him questions, he's thinking about whether he should answer them or not. And Masai doesn't necessarily do that, which is part of the fun of having Ujiri up there instead of Bobby Webster and stuff like that. Raymond Jacobs saying, anyone know when Fred gets surgery? I'm really hoping next season he comes back Freddie 2.0. You know what? Listen, I don't think he's getting surgery, Raymond. I don't think that his injury this year was that bad that he needs to get the surgery, because if he was going to get surgery, he would have done it already. That's the thing I'm saying. Like if he was going to get surgery for this and he was only waiting for the end of the season, he would have went in and got the knife right away, because he doesn't want to wait and to recoup and get the time schedule back so he can be ready for the beginning of the season if possible. I don't think he's getting surgery. I know that I said that a couple times near the end of the season that Fred's probably going to get surgery right away, but I think this is the kind of thing where he's going to just try and let it heal while in like this summer, and that hopefully he'll be better then and stuff like that. It may be that the doctors looked at it and said, you don't need surgery. It's like, if you just kind of like take care of it, baby it this summer, like maybe do some strength training or do some sort of like workout or something that where you can still stay in shape, but you're not working it too hard, that it can heal over the 3 or 4 months between the seasons. And I think that's what's going on with Fred, because I was wondering the same thing. I was like, man, he's going to get a surgery right away. But he never did. He hasn't gotten a surgery. So I don't think he's going to this summer. So that's the interesting thing about it. Monique saying, Raymond, I think the wedding is soon, though. Oh, that may be part of it also, that Fred is going to get married to Shantae. And, I guess the wedding may be this weekend. I wonder if that's why he was scouting big parcels of land, that we saw him on his Instagram up in a plane looking down on the ground and saying there's some big business going on for Fred VanVleet. So very interesting. On Instagram this today is Pascal Siakam back at his favorite beach, the most blue water, the most blue sky, the most sandiest of beach. I don't know where Pascal goes, but that place is really pristine and maybe one of the most beautiful places on earth, where Pascal likes to do his vacation on the islands. And it seems like he's always just the only person there, which is really awesome. Like, hey, I'm all for it. Pascal wants to get away from the noise, not have anybody bugging him. If he's on some sort of private island that only very, very, very select people can go to, then I'm all for it. Let that man have his rest and get his sunshine and get his good vibes and get ready for next year. Pascal, you're a badass. And I'm so happy that you are on your beach where you are so happy. All right, Duke Rocks is here. Good to see Duke. If the idea is to go 6'9", especially with the starters, can we have Gary Trent Jr. and Fred VanVleet on the floor at the same time? Both contracts are coming up. Well, I mean, listen, I know what you're saying, and I understand what you're saying too. But once again, this is the thing: Gary kind of fits the positionless scheme pretty well. It's the only problem with him is when he gets switched to a really big guy down low. That can be a problem. But if they switch it right, where he's switching at the top with the other guys and on the wing that way, and not ever switching into the basket, then he should be okay as far as guarding that from him. But the reason why he's so great is because of his perimeter defense, him and Fred, as far as like just dogging the ball and dogging the ball handler and just knocking that ball loose. So those two guys, in some ways, because of the level of play that they have, the aptitude, the skills they have, I think that they're exempt from the positionless being like not involved in it. They are going to be involved in it because once again, Nick Nurse looks at Fred VanVleet as a 6'7", 6'9" guy in his eyes. He said this. It's crazy. He says Fred is actually bigger than he is what he says. He plays bigger than he is. And it's partly because of his strength. Because he may be a short guy, but he is so strong. And then if you're coming by him and he just puts his hand on the ball, he can get the ball from you, or he can just take it from a guy like Joel Embiid. If Joel Embiid has the ball near the basket and he's holding it, Fred will strip him because he's strong enough to do it. So in some ways, it's deceiving with Fred. Fred's a special case that he can get away with playing in the positionless scheme because we can hide his height to a certain degree. And then also he is like really strong so that when they switch him to the low post, he can actually guard the low post better than Gary, which is something in itself. So that's the way I look at it, Duke. But I understand what you're saying is like, what's going to happen with this? I mean, Masai didn't even mention Gary's name in his press conference exit. So I don't know what's up with that. Some people are really reading into that. But I think that our core is pretty solid and that everybody's going to be back and it'll be fine and stuff like that. But when those contracts come up, that won't be for I think like a year, next summer maybe, or the summer after that. Player option for Fred, and I believe also player option for Gary next summer. So we'll see how that all works. Monique saying Pascal is next All NBA. Congratulations, Scotty. Yeah, I think you're right, Monique. That'll be the next things they announce, and then Pascal will probably be All NBA third team, which is perfectly fine. I've looked at that voting and stuff. He's still online for him to be involved in that and be on the third team and be All NBA, which is absolutely where he should be in some ways. Some people would say maybe he should be on the second team All NBA, but we'll take third team All NBA because that's still kudos. That's like top 15 players in the league. And, he is one of those guys, and that's why he'll make it and he deserves it. Oh, yeah. I love that. I love that so much. So, Monique, I saw you posted earlier the Dwayne Wade thing with Scotty Barnes and Obi Toppin. And I'm wondering if that was the full clip. I saw it's only about 13 minutes. I did not watch it before this, but I am going to watch it afterwards. So everybody check out this new show that Dwayne Wade is hosting with these young NBA players and one of the WNBA players talking about the next 25 years in the NBA and speculating how it's going to look and how it's going to change and how fan and player interaction has evolved because of social media and things like that and how it will change even more. So that's very interesting. All right, let's see. Monique wants me to grade Gary Trent Jr. for this past year. Well, listen, I'm going to tell you right now, going into the season last year, he was an enigma to me. He was somebody that I saw was not totally happy, and it was really because he was still depressed from his time in Portland and how shitty it went there, and that he wasn't fully sure how to feel about Toronto because he hadn't showed up in Toronto. He was playing in Tampa for the last end of the season last year, so it was all a little shaky. But then when he showed up in Toronto, apparently Chris told this story. When he showed up, he said that he was going to make it Miami up in here with his style. And Chris laughed. He said that's the funniest Gary Trent moment he had when Gary showed up to Toronto for the first time. He was wearing something like Versace and just Gucci and just like all the names. And Chris is like, look at what this man's wearing. He's like, I'm going to make it Miami up in this bitch. Is what he said. So like that. But listen, all right, if I'm being serious about grading Gary for this year, I think this man is an A plus. And the reason why I think he's an A plus is because, first of all, he made his game two-way. And that's so hard to do. He was not a two-way player when we traded him for Norman to get him, So That's the thing. He expanded his game to another side of the court. And in that way, that made him like doubly valuable. And that he also was in the league leaders of steals and just like a threat all kinds of ways. Now he's a streak shooter. He goes through hot and cold times. So I give him allowances for having bad games when he shoots bad because some of the games he's so on fire and so integral to us winning. So I honestly give Gary a plus for his development and his play this past season. I think that he was off the charts in some games, amazing for us. And that the whole dimension of him being a two-way player actually allowed him to be very useful even when he's not making his shot. And that was the biggest knock is if he's not making his three-point shot, well, he's not any good on the court. Well, now you can say if he's not making his three-point shot, well, at least he's out there playing crazy defense and getting steals. And so that's my honest assessment. I think he did A plus because to me, he was one of the most improved players on our team from last year, just by getting that two-way aspect and stuff like that. All right, Raymond Jacob is saying, seeing so many star players get injured during these playoffs and sitting out, how can we prevent injuries next playoffs? Are we going to play starters so many minutes again? Maybe we just have to be super tough like Pascal was this year. I mean, Pascal missed the beginning of the year because of his injury from last year, but then he stayed tough as hell all season long after, barely missed any time after that. And that's maybe has to have to be part of that is like, listen, all these stupid people that go around discounting championships and different things because of injuries, y'all need to shut the hell up because it's only getting worse. You're never going to think there's going to be a real championship ever again because there's always going to be a key player that's missing in the finals. I'm going to tell you that right now. There's always going to be that at this point because the playoffs is a grind. You have the whole NBA season, 82 games, and then you get in the playoffs. You're lucky if you're healthy all throughout that whole time because you are going to miss key players, just like the Celtics did last night. And that really hurt them. I mean, not last night, 2 nights ago with Horford and Smart being out. Now they're saying that Horford is probably going to be out again and that Smart will probably play in this next game. But these missing players really do hurt teams. And that's what I'm saying. Asterisk people talking about asterisk this, they say this stuff about Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson for us. I'm like, just shut the fuck up because every season people are getting hurt and that you can't put an asterisk on every single season. This is just part of how it goes. You better have good skill. You better have good depth because you may need that depth to get you all the way there. And that's the thing. It's like, who's going to get there? Who's going to make it all the way there? Who can do it? That kind of stuff. So, yeah, I think that we're going to have to get used to the injuries and just playing around them and have a next man up mentality. And just maybe if we could get a more deeper, capable bench, that would have helped us a lot more. Like that may have helped us in this first round against Philadelphia. If we had more guys off the bench that could have stepped in and done things for Scotty and Gary and Fred in the games that they missed. And I say Gary because he missed the first 2 games, even though he played. We know he did. So, yeah, it's going to be different. And that is something that Nick Nurse talked a lot about in his outgoing interview was they need to make the bench stronger because now more than ever, we need to rely on them more to be capable to step in for other guys because of these injuries and things, the trends in the NBA with this kind of stuff. So Click 2AM saying DeAndre Ayton wants a max contract and wants to be a top 2 option on offense, but he doesn't have the mindset of being aggressive, doesn't shoot the 3 well. We can find someone else that does the same. Okay, Click does not endorse getting on DeAndre Ayton. And you know what? I listen to Click because Click has been one of the best voices of reason this whole season. I like what he's saying here because I think he's right. And I think that's part of the reason why there's a fallout in Phoenix is that he doesn't try hard enough. And that Monty Williams and other people are mad at him because he didn't give the right effort in the game where they lost last weekend. So, all right, Click saying pass on Ayton. You know what? Once again, and I know that I made this stream with the picture of Ayton on there and talking about this whole thing. But once again, I want to say this isn't me endorsing a trade to get Ayton. This is just me exploring the idea on the Thursday think tank of what would it take, would it be worth it, and stuff like that. And Click is saying it's not going to be worth it. And I think that we're all on the same page with this. It's like we don't need a super max or a max center. We need a guy like Mo Bamba, somebody who's kind of mid-level, not horrible, not a bench center that you stash at the end of the bench. A guy who's maybe a rotation player, but he isn't somebody who's going to want max money like Aiton wants. And I think I agree with this, Click. That I think you're right that this may be the reason why Phoenix has not put the money in the pot with him, is that they don't like how aggressive he is. They think he's too lackadaisical, and they're like, we can't invest in this guy because we know he's going to let us down like he did last weekend, kind of thing. So, all right, I agree with this. I agree with Click on this, and you guys are we're all kind of coming around the same place. It's like it's too steep. The cost, a trade, a sign and deal with Phoenix for DeAndre Ayton. Let's see. Raymond Jacobs saying at Mo, Gary has a great dad. Laugh out loud. Not so much for Malachi, though. Raymond Jacob. He had to put in a jab at Malachi's dad, Eric Flynn, in there somewhere. But yeah, Gary Trent Sr. So it's just he's a pimp. He's an interesting dude. He's a badass. Like, listen, I am super impressed with Grayson Trent. Like, Monique, when you posted that clip the other day, I've watched it like 10 times since really analyzing this kid's skills at that young age. And I'm like, this dude has skills like Steph Curry had when he was at that age. Seriously, because when I used to watch Steph and Seth shoot around in the Air Canada Center before Dell would play for the Raptors like 20 years ago, Steph and Seth were looking like they had the same skill set as Grayson Trent. And I'm telling you right now, we were wondering whether Gary's brothers would be any good at basketball. Well, Grayson is, that's for sure. Grayson Trent, he's going to be an NBA player. Mark my words right now. I'm going to tell you right now, Grayson Trent will be in the NBA. And I'm going to say that right now. I don't want to put any extra pressure on the kid, but I said the same damn thing about Steph Curry 20 years ago. And you see where he got to. So I'm going to make a prediction right now. Very early prediction. Grayson Trent's going to play in the NBA, y'all. You're going to see him in the NBA. And it may be in 10 years, but you're going to see him. You're going to see him playing. I'm going to tell you that right now. All right, let's see. Duke Rocks is saying, with the draft pick number 33, should we go best available or roll the dice on an athletic stretch 5? Yeah, this is a great debate, Duke. And it is something probably very much similar to what they are debating. That's always the debate in the draft. Do you go for needs or do you go for best available? For me, I think that we should go for best available in some ways because, and especially if we can get best available shooter. Like if we can get best available shooter, and then in this diagram, Venn diagram, we can have that best available shooter, and then like 6'7", 6'9", around that way. Can we make this in that middle spot in the Venn diagram? That would be great if we can get height and shooting. That is what I want, because then we kind of get two of the checklists off. Height's important. I do not want a small shooting guard. I do not want another point guard. I think we have enough point guards on our team, and I do not want to see anybody under 6'5" get drafted by the Raptors at 33. I'm sorry. That is just a prerequisite for me. And I think that I'll be okay with this is because Bobby and Messiah are saying the same damn thing. It's like they have to have this right look for to be drafted by us at this point. And that's what I think is going to happen. So yeah, I think it'll be best available. And you know what? The more we talk about the center stuff, the more I understand why the Raptors have not tried to fill this need that we've been crying out for a couple years now, is that they don't feel like it is actually a need. It's like, we can do this without the center guys. Just watch us do it. Boom. And stuff like that. So I'm going more best available at 33. With that question there. Monique is saying news and notes. Brittany Donaldson with the Honey Badgers. Yeah, I watched that Brittany Donaldson interview from the other day. Very interesting stuff. She doesn't have any ill will towards the Raptors. You can tell. She really enjoyed being here and being around the championship team and helping make that happen. I thought that interview would be so much more interesting and explosive, but it was very dry and boring. I'm not going to lie, but that's just it. She's a stats lady. She's into stats and stuff like that. But it was interesting to hear her journey as far as like how she got to the Raptors and how she became into the math with the basketball. And that in her field, there aren't many people that actually played basketball at a good level and know the math also. So she's kind of a unique hybrid in her field because she has real experience on the court. And then also she really knows her stats, her statistics and stuff like that. Because like she really was the metrics kind of person on our team when she was on the team. She even said it herself in that interview. It was all about the money ball thing in baseball, the metrics. They figured out how to run teams and figure things out. Well, she was our metrics person for the championship year and around the time when she was on the team. And now I think our guy is Eric Curry is that metrics person as far as our assistant coaches. Is he's the guy who's doing that work now for the Raptors on the team is Eric Curry. And yeah, I think that that's interesting. I loved hearing Brittany's talking her story and hear her voice more and just kind of like talking about things. And you could tell she really enjoyed being here. And her story about she had a story about when she was on the team, her part, they would sit up in the press box to do her part of her coaching, and she wasn't down there. And when the Raptors won, the Eastern Conference Finals against Philadelphia after the shot, she had to come down from the press box, and they were giving out the hats, the Eastern Conference champion hats and shirts for the players and the coaches to take pictures. And Kawhi held up that round trophy, the Eastern Conference championship trophy, and she got down there late in the box where there were hats. There was only one hat there left, and she was going to get it. And next to the hat box was Drake. Drake was standing there next to the hat box, and he already had one of the hats on, and he was eyeing the one last hat there. And she ran up and snatched the hat out of Drake's hands, because she was like, I'm taking this," and she put it on. It's hilarious. So I love that story because like Drake was trying to double dip and get two hats somehow, some way, and she came and took it from him. But Brittany Donaldson, she's a great Raptors coach alumni, and I really enjoyed like hearing her interview the other day and getting to know more about her personality and stuff like that. I'll tell you, half the interview was really boring, but I really like blame the interviewer because he was asking questions that were just kind of like, who cares about that kind of stuff? But when she told the Drake story, I was like, that's badass. What a G Brittany Donaldson is, you know? Oh my gosh. G saying, did we talk about Jalen Harris posting that he's in Toronto? I'm late today. We were talking about that yesterday, G, but we'll talk more about it now. Yes, I think that there's only really one reason why he would be in Toronto, guys. I mean, think about it. There's really only one reason why he would be in Toronto, and that's to meet with the Raptors and see if he can be reinstated and maybe have a chance to get back on our team. And that's the only thing I could think of why he would be here at this point, especially because, listen, think about this. A year ago was when he got suspended. So it could be that his 1-year suspension is up and he's come right back. And maybe that's even signifying that he is committed to trying to come back and play for us, that he is trying to come and reclaim his NBA career, because he could easily just be sitting in the States somewhere or somewhere else and hanging out and being like, I don't care, and like not being dutiful about this. Well, this dude showed up. And he came early in the morning, too. I'm not going to lie. He came very early in the morning yesterday, and he was all about posting, I'm in Toronto, y'all. I'm in Toronto. And that's what I think's happening is he's showing good faith that he does want to commit to still being committed and showing up and being a good citizen to play for the Raptors. So we'll see. We'll have to see the developments. I haven't heard officially that the NBA's reinstated him, but the fact that he's here and the fact that they are talking to him, and it's about 1 year ago since he got suspended, then that says a lot to me as far as things. And I wish the best for him. Honestly, you guys have talked about him so much this year. This is what we wanted. Hey, let's get it happening. I want this to happen, Masai. So figure out a way that Jalen can. And Jalen, you better be strong in your conviction with how you're going to carry yourself with your body at this point. You cannot be messing around with no stuff and getting banned again. Because listen, the second time you're banned for life, I think. I don't remember the rules exactly. Maybe you get banned for 2 years after that or something like that. But yeah, we don't need you to just show up and then disappoint us again. So you need to come in and do this right, Jalen, if we give you another chance. That's what I'm going to say right now. So that's how I look at it, G. And just looking at it perspective-wise, it's really fishy that it's a year ago that he got suspended. So I think it's going to be showing up. Duke Rocks is saying there's a Canadian kid, Leonard Miller, who's 6'9" point guard. Seen some clips, but looks slow, mostly because how tall he is. Yeah, I've seen the Leonard Miller clips too. The one thing about Leonard Miller is that he's straight from high school and that, he just declared for the draft a couple of weeks ago. He wasn't even going to be on the draft board until recently. And I've watched his clips also. He's a big guy among little kids. And when you watch high school clips, you have to remember this that listen, he's usually going to be a foot taller than everybody else and that he's going to be way stronger than anybody, so those kind of stats can be inflated and stuff. Now you look at him and he has athletic gifts, but he's only like 6'5", I mean 6'6", 6'7". He's got a long wingspan. He hasn't had any college career, and like Summer Lowe was saying yesterday, and I completely agree with this, Toronto, drafting Delano Banton was nice, but that made sense. It was kind of like on that Venn diagram, a player that we can be useful, and he's Canadian and from Toronto. Well, that's fantastic, but we don't want to draft people just because they're Canadian. That is what Summer was saying yesterday. We don't want to asking about do we take the best available? Well, if he's there and there's somebody else there, but the other guy's better, but he's Canadian, and then we lean towards drafting Leonard Miller because he's Canadian, I don't like that. So I'm kind of passing on Miller right now just because he looks like a project. He looks like a project. He doesn't look like somebody who's going to be able to contribute anytime soon. And he may not be the best person at 33. But the crazy thing is, I've seen him getting drafted in the first round on some mock drafts and stuff like that. So he is kind of sought after, and maybe he is kind of an athletic stud that could possibly become something later. But it's kind of like a Bruno Caboclo. He may be 2 years away from being 2 years away, kind of thing, to me, as far as the way he looks and stuff like that. So I personally say pass on Leonard Miller at 33, that we could do much better at that spot. But it may be that maybe I don't understand his complete value, and that him falling out of the first round may be a good pick at 33 then. So who knows? Click 2am saying need Miami to win tonight. Fuck the Celtics. Yeah, I think everybody give a good round of fuck the Celtics right now. Fuck the Celtics. Yes, Click. They are playing in Miami. Miami needs to defend their home court. Miami needs to get King Kyle Lowry to the finals so he can try and get a second championship ring. And we don't need no little green Martians running around trying to get a ring themselves. Oh, yeah, Click. Hallelujah. I testify. Click 2am. Yes, fuck Boston. Yes, go Miami. Testify. That's how I say about that and how I feel about that. Good morning to Sue. Sue is here. Good morning, Sue. Duke Rocks is saying, I was looking for updates on Jalen Harris. Thanks for the update, G. Yeah, it's really interesting that he's here in Toronto, Duke. I'm telling you, that is a big tell to tell me that he is trying to get back in the organization. And I love it. I love it. Click 2am saying Jalen Harris will probably be on the Summer League roster. I don't see how the Raptors take him back after what he did, though. Well, listen, this is how he does it, Click. He gets his foot in the door like a Fred VanVleet would, and he works his ass off. He plays so good in Summer League that we cannot say no to him. And that's basically his path back. Like, you guys think he's such a great scorer. You think he's such a good shooter. Well, he does it this summer, and boom, he's got Svi's roster spot right there. Boom. Because he's already in our organization. We don't have to acquire him or anything in any kind of weird way. We just have the rights to him, and it's just basically just re-adding him into the thing, giving him a salary for this season. So listen, that's the only way. Is he has to show first. He's got to show a development improvement from when we last saw him at the end of the Tampa year. Like when he went overseas and he went and played somewhere, he better got better. And he better show like a more maturity and just a more seriousness about being in the NBA. If he does those things, he will get a roster spot. And listen, if he can be part of the answer for our problems with scoring off the bench, I'm all for it, because this is an organically grown person that we don't have to do anything to get him back in the roster. It's just he screwed up last year. He comes back in, he's shown improvement over the year he's been gone, and he just makes it so badass that he cannot be denied a spot on the roster. That's how it'll happen right there. And listen, there's no guarantees on this, and that is so super hard to do. You can ask Fred VanVleet as a player who had to do basically that kind of thing. He was undrafted. He had to fight and claw every step of the way to get to where he is on the Raptors today. So let's see if Jalen Harris has that mettle. See if he has that drive, and see if he has that discipline to stay out of his dark place and to be a really productive badass where we cannot deny him. We cannot deny him. We're like, we can't cut him. He's too good right now. That's what I want them to say about him by the end of the summer. Let's see. Yep, yep, yep. No problem. Summer Low is here. Good to see Summer. Jalen didn't play that well in Europe, but his 31-point game against Dallas was epic. Yeah, that was the one at the end of the year last year. Okay, so he didn't play that well in Europe. Well, maybe some of the growth and the development wasn't seen on the court, but maybe it's internal. Maybe it's like Sam Decker had to go to Turkey and play over there and really search his soul and mature as a person while he was over there. Maybe there's a little bit of that for Jalen Harris, and maybe that'll improve his overall game because his head's more clear. He's more focused. He's not as like fucked up, literally and stuff like that. So that's interesting that he didn't play well over there. Summer knows her stuff. I'm gonna believe Summer if she says she's seen this and she knows. I'm a believer because she's kind of like Masai Ujiri. She's a scout herself. She knows what's going on. She's checking everything. Sue's saying, I think if Harris is clean and plays hard, we should give him a chance at camp. Everyone screws up and shouldn't keep punishing him if he has changed, but he has to show up and prove himself. Yeah, well, I think coming to Toronto yesterday literally is showing up, which is good, but he needs to prove himself also. And I think there's two ways he's got to prove himself. He's got to prove that he can be a scorer in the NBA, and he's got to prove that he can keep his head clean and not being messed up or anything like that. So Monique's saying, yeah, Summer, that's what I'm hearing too on Jay. Yeah, well, we'll have to see what happens with Jalen Harris. We're all rooting for you, Jalen, as Raptor fans, and we want to see you help our team in an area that we need help with, that you could be one of the answers. Click2M saying the Raptors are going to draft a shooter. I guarantee it. Yeah, I hope so. What if it's John Butler Jr.? He's 7'1" and he's a shooter. That's the thing I'm saying. There's some tall shooters in this draft that may get bounced around in different places and stuff like that. John Butler Jr., Florida State freshman, 1 year with Leonard Hamilton last year. He's very skinny. He's under 200 pounds, but he's 7'1", and he can shoot the three really well. That, in fact, may be his best attribute is that he bombs threes. They likened him to Channing Frye, that he's a very good, tall three-point shooter. And the other thing is that when he's on the defensive end, he can block shots. He is a rim protector, and he is tall enough, and he can get around and stuff like that. So, yeah, that is what I like. Could it be a 7'1" shooter? Click. Would you be happy with that? John Butler Jr. I've seen him going in the 20s in the first round in some mock drafts. I've seen him up in the second round also. So those are the kind of guys I'm kind of looking at. So this person values them in this late first round, early second round. Then that's right around our sweet spot. The people we should be realistically looking at for the draft. All right, let's see. G is saying, I am manifesting a Bane type player for them in the draft. Not Bane from Batman, Desmond Bane from the Memphis Grizzlies. Yeah, you want the tough guy, a guy who wants to punch people in the face, a guy who looks like he could go and get in the ring in AEW and start throwing those little midget wrestlers, the little wrestlers that are wrestling now. I shouldn't say midget, although midget wrestlers like being called midget wrestlers. I should say like these ordinary guys in AEW now. Desmond Bane looks like he could go there and beat the crap out of all of them. He could be like the main eventer fighting Braun Breaker or something like that, Desmond Bane. But yeah, I like that. A tough, hard-nosed guard, although he's a little short for what I'd like to get myself. I want somebody that has the height and the wingspan and can shoot also. I know that's a tough combo to find sometimes, but that is what I want. But you know what, that kind of mentality of Desmond Bane, I love that in a player coming towards us because his mentality is really part of the leadership of the new Grizzlies. Is Desmond Bane's energy and intensity is part of what drives the Grizzlies to win right now. And I love players like that on our team. We need another kind of Kyle Lowry that has that kind of edge and drive to win at all costs, whatever it takes. Sue says, fuck the Celtics. Haha. Testify, Sue. Give another fuck the Celtics out there. Yes, I love it. Summer Lowe saying, looking at all the mock drafts for second round, I don't see any potential centers that come without horrid free throw shooting. I hope Messiah has something lined up. Well, a lot of these names we've been talking about, Kofi Coburn, Christian Coloco, Kai Soto, they're all different kind of skills and different kind of levels of where they're at in their game and stuff like that. Me personally, I like Kai Soto the most out of the three of those guys that I was just talking about. We were talking about him yesterday. But is the free throw thing as important? I mean, I know free throw shooting is really important, but in some ways, it's like if we can kind of hide them from having to go to free throw line. I know hack a Shack kind of happens sometimes, but if you're not putting the ball in the hands of the center, the new center, the young center, then they won't not be getting to the free throw line that often. And that may be that's not part of their offensive like skill set. Like Kem didn't have to go to the free throw line a whole lot as a center this year, and maybe that we just kind of hide that way or something like that. I don't know. I don't really worry about the free throw shooting as much. Like how they said Scotty wasn't a good shooter last year. Well, you can work on that. And he got way better as a shooter. And that knock on him was really dumb. That they're saying that was the one negative they had on Scotty Barnes is he's not a good shooter. Well, that can be improved. And that's the same thing with free throws. In fact, I believe that free throws can be improved easier than field goal percentage because free throws is just like you really got to just work on it and get concentration and a technique and how you do it every single time. You'll get better and better. Like Pascal was not a good free throw shooter when he first came into the NBA, and he's gotten way more dependable because he has a routine and he shoots it a very certain way every single time. And now he's way more dependable. And I expect that kind of stuff to happen with Precious. Precious needs to get way better with his free throws, and that hopefully he takes the time to really study and put the time in and practice and get like his free throw routine really down and really sound. So he's making like 70 to 80% of his free throws this next year coming up. So even if a center comes in not a very good free throw shooter, I'm saying, well, we can work on that. I mean, guys like Shaq never tried. They were like, they had no concentration. Will Chamberlain, he didn't give a shit about making free throws. It's so stupid, though. These guys could have made a lot more points in their careers if they were better free throw shooters, and they would have been way up even higher on the all-time grades. But that's woulda, coulda, shoulda, and that's just Shaq's own inability to ever get good at the free throw line. But I think that, even if a center is not very good at the free throw line, we can cover it up and they can hopefully improve to get even better on the line. Stuff like so. I wouldn't hold off on drafting someone just because of their free throw shooting. Duke's saying Champagne's bro, Julian, will be a second rounder. I wonder if Justin would want his twin bro here. I've seen him on mock drafts in a lot of different places. I've seen him right around near where we're going to pick, and I've seen him at the very end of the second round, and I've seen him not get drafted also on a lot of mock drafts too. Like he's just in the pool and saying that he's there. I think, listen, Duke, this is the way I look at it. If he's a twin of Justin and him and Justin are very similar, well, then the outcome will probably be very similar to Justin. I don't think he's going to get drafted. I know that that's maybe pessimistic, and I do hope that he gets drafted. I want that for him. But if he doesn't get drafted, it could be a very similar situation to last year with Justin, where he's going to have a bidding war among other teams that to say, well, you didn't get drafted, but we'd love to have you come to our summer league or our camp and stuff. And in that case, maybe he does show up because he doesn't get drafted, and he shows up and he's with Justin, and they're both in our summer league and training camp and trying to get spots on our team. But then again, maybe he doesn't want to be with Justin, and maybe he wants to go his own route and be on another team. Because the thing about them is their body types are very similar, so that their games are very similar. Like they're very similar kind of player in some ways. And in some ways, you don't need two of these guys on a team. So I don't know if they're good as a set actually on a team as far as things. I've been debating this. Like sometimes twin power is very interesting and inherently like psychic, and that may be a really good advantage. But also I'm kind of like, well, are they too duplicitous? Are they too alike? And that do you really need, you got one Justin Champagnie. Do you need a Julian Champagnie? I don't know. That's an interesting thing. And I'm also speculating whether he will actually get drafted. He could be very similar to Justin, that he falls through the cracks and that he's getting to pick which team he wants to go and hang out with this summer. All right, Summer Lowe's saying there's some interesting takes from the Odd Couple talking about how the center had a bit of a comeback, but it's fading now. All the 4 teams left in the playoffs don't have a traditional center and thrive on small ball. Yeah, by traditional, they mean dominant. Yeah, I know what you mean. That's what that's always been kind of the describer is like traditional center means like Patrick Ewing, Akeem Olajuwon, Shaquille O'Neal. Jonas Valanciunas even is kind of a traditional center. And we thought Jonas was like one of the dying breed. That was part of the reason why we're like, does Jonas really need to be on our team? And maybe that's part of the reason why our team is so anti-center, is because it kind of got to the point where Jonas was a negative on our team in certain ways, and we wanted to work around not having those kind of negatives on our team, so that our team's constructed the way it is now. And I think that this is right. Like, whoever the odd couple is that they're making content, is that there was a little like small resurgence of the dominant big man in the NBA, with guys like Jokic and Embiid kind of carrying the flag for that. But in some ways, it's not really winning basketball at the very end of it. It's like in the past, you'd win NBA championships by feeding your big guy in the post and them just beating them over the head, like just being so dominant. And that's how centers would win championships. Well, you can't do that in today's NBA. And that's part of the reason why this is like this was like a false start to a new big man era. This was a fake out. It was not really actually going to happen. And any of these teams, and even the fans of the Raptors, are saying, we need a big center. We need a big center. Well, maybe you're not understanding the real trend of the NBA and how it's going. And like we said, the way that it looks with the 4 teams that are playing at this point and stuff like that, with their makeup without really using a big center. So yeah, it's very interesting. And I think that there was a slight resurgence, but I don't think that the big center plan has legs to win at this point in the NBA. That everybody's so much quicker, faster, versatile, all over the different places, that a center has always been on the down low one of the big negatives on your team that can be exploited by the other team in different ways. And that I think that's becoming more and more apparent and stuff like that. So yeah, I like this. And I think that this is exactly right, that there was kind of a little renaissance for a second, but it wasn't really going to take or become a real age of the NBA. It's just like, for just a brief second, maybe we will be going back to bigs. But nope, it isn't really like that. And it isn't small ball either, what's happening. Like, I know we call it small ball. Maybe they call it small ball just because there's no center there, but I don't call it small ball because there's guys that are very tall that are playing, but it's maybe that there's, like us this past year, there's like 3 or 4 6'9" guys in lineups now, because now shooting guards are like 6'9", stuff like that. Point guard can be 6'9" now with Scotty Barnes and stuff like that. So it's really like, it's deceiving to say small ball. And in fact, when people said that we played a small ball lineup this season, I kind of cringed. I was kind of like, that's not really accurate, because we're pretty tall overall. It's just that we don't play with the traditional center. So it's an interesting, like, I don't know if small ball is the right word for it at this point. Like, even the teams that are playing right now, I don't necessarily say that they're playing small ball, because they have good height throughout their whole lineup for the most part. Let's see. Monique saying, believe in Masai and Bobby. That's the next one. Testify, Monique. At the Thursday Think Tank, we're testifying. Fuck Celtics and believe in Bobby and Masai. These are like rules. These are like tenements in our religion. It's like, believe in Masai and Bobby and fuck the Celtics. Yeah. All right. Duke saying, Kai Soto is the guy that piqued my interest as well. Yeah. If you looked at him, Duke, when you see Kai Soto, he has handles to me like Luka Doncic, like, and he's over 7 feet tall. Like, he can really dribble and move around the court with the ball, and he doesn't look like awkward. Like, he looks really smooth. Like, he's a really good ball handler and a good slasher and a good cutter. And I like that at that height. There's some very intriguing things about him. In fact, he may be the one I really want us to take at number 33 is Kai Soto. Because the other thing I really like about him is he's not very young. He's a professional over there, and he's got some years of professional ball under his belt. And we have such a great history with these kind of players. Like, listen, Summer, after yesterday and talking about the free agency stuff, I went and did the research about all the free agents that the Raptors have signed over the years. And some people say that the best free agent that we ever signed was Jose Calderon, that we signed this guy from Spain who had never played in the NBA, and he came in here and boom, look at what he did for us. We made something out of nothing. And Jose was one of the greatest Raptors in some ways statistically of all time. So this is the thing. Garbajosa, Matt Thomas, they do this kind of thing. Kai Soto would be the same kind of player like Jose, where you bring them in with professional experience overseas, and that they're not necessarily the normal kind of rookie. Like Jorge Barbosa, when he showed up for the Raptors, this man was not a rookie. This man was a veteran professional of the world who came in with professional mentality and veteran kind of skills already. And that's why it was kind of weird that he was on the all rookie team, because in a lot of ways, Barbosa was already a vet. He shouldn't have been considered a rookie in some ways. It was unfair. So maybe Kai Soto kind of leans in that way. And that may also mean that Kai Soto is more ready to play in the NBA and contribute right away. And that's another thing I like. And you cannot not hate that height and that mobility with it. He really looks really good to me. I really like him too. Summer's saying some mocks have us picking Ishmael Kamagate. All right, I've got my little list up of the drafts. I'm going to go look at Ishmael and see what his profile is looking like. Okay, there's the Korean player that Summer was talking about yesterday was Hae-Young Lee, 6'7" wing. He's actually not that tall, which I wasn't impressed with when I saw him. I looked at him yesterday and I wasn't as impressed with him. Look, the mock draft I'm looking at has the Ishmael guy in the first round. Let me see where they have him, because I don't see him on this list yet. Okay, they got him at 28 with the Warriors. He's from France. He's 6'11" center, and they're comparing him to Kevin Seraphin. He's an explosive, powerful post player with above the rim ability. Ishmael Kamagate. Yeah, that's the French player. I've heard a little bit about him. That's the French center. So we'll have to see. I don't know. Like the other guys that I've talked about, like I'm really big on Soto. I'm really big on John Butler Jr. And I'm not as big on Coburn and Koloko as much. But maybe I'll go watch some Ishmael this today also and stuff like that. So let's see. All right. Monique's saying the last time I checked, Cavs have Julian Champagnie. What? Cavaliers have Julian Champagnie? How? Like there's no way they can have him yet. Oh, you mean in the mock draft? Did they have them picking him? Because he's not on an official team yet, because he's not drafted or anything like that. He can't be on the Cavs yet. Maybe that's in the mock draft. You see him there. Summer Low saying, yeah, the centers are being exposed and exploited. Gobert and Ayton got exposed so bad. See, exactly. Why? That may be why these teams want to trade them. That may be why there's so much trade talk in the last 2 weeks about Gobert and Ayton to the Raptors. That these teams see that these are losing players that will cause you to lose because of their size and they can be exploited. That they want to unload these problems and start building in another way. And they once again want to take our best stuff and dump us with the stuff they don't want. So yeah, pass on these names. I mean, even though I made this content with Ayton's name and the content thing, that's just because this is the name of the week. This is the flavor of the week to talk about in the think tank is Ayton, like Gobert was last week. And we pretty much killed that Gobert idea. It's like stupid. No way we want Gobert. And I think with Summer saying this is like, yeah, this basically exposes their reasoning for why maybe they didn't re-up and give more max money to Ayton already and keep him in the fold, because maybe they see that they want that flexibility to go into not small ball, but maybe non-center ball is what we should call it. I don't know. What should we call it? Non-center ball? I don't know. I don't know. It's not positionless completely, because a lot of these teams will play with a regular point guard still. But all right, let's see. Summer Low saying Raptors could possibly pick up Kai Soto if they traded for a late second round pick for some cash. I think Miami and Chicago actually have forfeited second round picks. Yeah, they did because of the deals last year with Kyle Lowry and Lonzo Ball. Yeah, they got in trouble and they don't have those picks at this point. So there's going to be two players that don't get in drafted just because of these idiot teams with their tampering. So you're saying that we wouldn't even have to take Kai Soto at 33, that if we could mess around and get another late second round pick, that we could get Soto there. And I think you're right, because I've seen Soto not be in the mock drafts, him as a potential person in the mock drafts, but he has not been slotted in as being drafted in some of these mock drafts. That is just like he's on the fringe of being in the draft or not in the draft, kind of like Julian Champagnie. and stuff like that. That Kai Soto isn't a home run for sure, and maybe some people aren't really interested in him for different reasons. I'm not even sure what his knock is on him though, because he looked really good. Every time I look at his highlights, I'm like, this dude's badass. Like seriously. So you're saying, yeah, trade for a late second round pick for some cash. Yeah. Some are saying, yeah, Jose was a great pickup. Anthony Parker too. Yeah, he was another one from. He was overseas, and we brought him in straight from overseas, and he wasn't a straight up rookie, and he kind of played a little bit in the NBA and had to leave, and then he came back. Those kind of players are gold. They are gold. They are gold because they come from nowhere, and you really get all the benefits from them. Some are saying, but those aren't marquee players, though. No other team was looking to pick them up. The issue with free agency is Toronto needs to compete with other cities, countries to sign free agents. I mean, that's something we've said for a long, long time. But then again, we said that like in the early 2000s. We said that in the late 2000s that we have to compete in the free agency market. Well, Masai came in and showed that he could do it without having to do that to a degree and stuff like that. I think that it's going to get better. Honestly, I think it's going to get better, and that we're going to be very pleased with how our free agency is going to go in the next 10 years, that we will get an attractive free agent, a good free agent, a big free agent at some point. It's just that right now, maybe we're still doing everything internally through the draft and trades and stuff like that. But I think that there's going to be a sign of the shift in the perception of Toronto as a destination for free agents, because something is going to happen where people are going to be like, whoa, they just got this person or something like that. I'm wondering, Summer, do you mean you want to see us in a bidding war where there's like us and the Lakers are trying to get a very specific player, and that we beat them in free agency as far as the player picks us to come to our team instead of maybe going to the Lakers, a dumpster fire, even though they're prestigious and all this, they could pay the same money, and they're looking at both teams. They're like, I could go play for the Lakers or I could go play for Toronto, and they're going to pay me the same money. I want to go play in Toronto because it's more functional. They have a good coach. They have a good team president. They have a great team. They have a young rookie of the year. I don't want to go play with LeBron. That's the thing you got to wonder about. How will we compete in that kind of way as far as free agency? Are we a more attractive location than the Lakers right now? In some ways, I would argue we are. So it's like, yeah. But that's the thing. I understand what you're saying. That like that's the perception that's been around for a long time. We're trying to beat it and get it over and done with. And maybe it won't happen right away, but there will be a home run free agency signing for the Raptors in the next 10 years. I'm going to tell you right now, a big one that we're all going to be like, whoa, this just came out of left field, or not out of left field. It'll be just like, wow, this is actually happening. We'll be like, we'll remember this summer. We'll have this time stamped and everything. You'll remember this, me saying this in the next 10 years. We're going to see a free agency signing that's going to change everything that we think about this and stuff like that. So some are saying that Ishmael seems like a carbon copy of Gobert. Why? Because they're French? Could be. I don't know. I haven't seen his highlights yet. It seems like that height's around there. But of course, some are saying, but he doesn't cost $40 million a year. Yeah, that's a big difference. I'm not really big on getting a French center, honestly, either of Gobert or this guy, even though I haven't seen him yet. And I know that he's ranked pretty high on the mock drafts compared to the other names that we're saying about centers right now. That Ishmael is actually higher ranked than anybody like Koloko or John Butler or stuff like that. Let's see. Monique's saying, don't forget, Lex, I brought up Kai Soto to you. That's right. I love this. You guys bring me names and I go and research them and I go look at them and I'm like, yeah, I will always give credit where credit's due. Whether it's Summer set me straight or giving me some new information, or Monique bringing me something new too, G, Click, anybody who has any kind of opinion that kind of sways my opinion, I'll say it. I will admit it because that's part of it. We're a think tank, and I'm not the end all be all or anything. I'm dumb in some ways, but I do know some stuff, and I got to remember my limits. And you guys come and fill in the blanks for me. All right, let's see. Summer's saying, what's strange though is the 20s picks in this draft don't seem as interesting as second rounders. So that San Antonio pick we gave up doesn't seem that big of a deal to me. Yeah, it's kind of like what I've been saying this week. The difference between the 22nd pick and the 33rd pick is probably not that much different. In fact, I've said this a few times this year. It's probably smart because the scale for rookie contracts, it goes way down with second round pick. You switch a first round pick that's kind of comparable to an early second round pick, And then you don't have to pay the rookie as much because it's a second round pick, not a first round pick. And then also, like you were telling me yesterday, is the contract duration could be maybe more flexible. And it doesn't have to be like a 3-year contract because it's second year. And then maybe you only try them out for like a year or two. And if they don't work, then you're not on the line for them to keep coming. So yeah, I like what you're saying here. And I think that's right. It's like, once again, the lottery picks at the top are a certain class. And if you can get in the top 6 or 7 or 8, I don't know how deep the really premium players are this year. I think maybe they go all the way to 10 because I've seen AJ Griffin at like 10 in the new mock draft after the lottery. And so maybe after that, everybody's kind of the same caliber of talent. There's maybe a really premium tier like Scotty Barnes, Cade Cunningham, last year, and like those guys, and then underneath from the range from like the teens into like the early 30s, where we are, could be very similar as far as talents, like size. Like there could be a whole like 20 players, 30 players that are all kind of really reasonably around the same kind of talent level, is what I'm saying. And then like being in the second round, picking in the second round instead of the first round, you get a money bonus of not having to pay as much. So that's the way I'm trying to look at it, spin it all kinds of way right, like positive for the Raptors and stuff. But I agree with that, Summer. I think that it's like it's not going to be much of a difference in like picking, even though it's 11 spots. It's not going to be much of a difference, I think. Duke saying, Masai after drafting anybody says, "Are you ready to work? Are you ready to work?" This is the key in who they draft. You can have all the talent in the world, but to become great, there's no escaping the work. And this may be the problem with Ayton. The whole subject of the picture today is that is DeAndre Ayton ready to work? Maybe he isn't, and that may be why. It's like he's got all the talent and the skills and like all this kind of stuff, but you cannot force a guy to try harder if they don't want to try harder. And I think you're right. Like this is a prerequisite, and this may be part of the reason why Jalen Suggs is not in a Raptor jersey and Scotty Barnes is, because when they asked him that question, Scotty Barnes jumped out and he said, "Yeah, I'm ready to work." And in fact, I've seen Scotty Barnes working out this week already, doing the heavyweight lifting stuff on IG. He's working right now. He's like keeps on working. He's gonna keep working on his game and getting better and better and better. Yeah. Lolita's saying, "Oh my God, you guys talking about the Raptors. I miss them all the more. Looking forward on seeing them back on the court. Thank you for all the chats. Go Raptors." Yes, Lolita. That is another one of our tenements. Fuck the Celtics. Trust in Bobby and Masai and go Raptors. That's right, Lolita. Oh my gosh. Well, listen, if you want your fix just a little bit every single morning, we'll talk about this every single day. Maybe this is the way we're pining for the new season. This is the way we tide ourselves over for a little bit of time, just a little bit of morning Raptor Freak chat about the Raptors and the daily stuff that's going on. Nothing wrong with that. And we keep the fire alive for the rest of the whole offseason to get into the new season. Just imagine the steam we're going to have rolling into the next season if we keep doing this all summer. We're gonna be, oh my gosh. Summer saying, yeah, Lolita, the NBA offseason is really long. It's like 5 months away. I know, it's crazy. Like when's September? When's October? When is the summer league start where we can see like maybe rookies playing or something like that? At least give us some WNBA in Toronto so we can watch that, and maybe I can get all detailed about the Triceratops, the Toronto Triceratops. I don't know, what would their team be named? I don't know. That was going to be a Thursday think tank, is one of these weeks this summer is going to be speculating about the Toronto WNBA team and what they should be called, and maybe like the way that they work with the team, or like off the Raptors name and stuff like that. So Click 2am saying, the more Canadian stars that enter the league, the less we will have to worry about free agency as a bad thing. Canadians will want to come here. Yeah. And I don't even think like honestly, the old knocks, like the Antonio Davis kind of metric system, Canada is weird. I don't understand Canada thing is actually a true thing anymore. In fact, if you look at the current Raptors and the way that they feel about Toronto, they all love the city. And they're all kind of like, I think that things have kind of grown up in the world a little bit. Like people are a little bit more worldly. Like if you look at our roster, it's very international. Of course, we've got people that are lived all over the world in different ways. So they're like, they can understand Toronto. But even the guys that aren't, like the Americans, like Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr., Scotty Barnes, they can come to Toronto and really understand the culture and the way the city is, the diversity and all the great things about it, and really appreciate it. Like I think Gary Trent Jr. loves Toronto because it's got a style and a swag to it that he really fits in with and looks good in. And Scotty, it's got to be exciting for him to be in a big city like Toronto and to see that like you're the hero of the city now. You're going to see yourself on billboards. You can go places and people are going to treat you like a hero wherever you go. And that's got to be fun, especially with a city that looks like Toronto, the city that's so diversified, a city that's so cosmopolitan and futuristic looking in different ways and stuff like that. For a kid from West Palm Beach to come from the beaches and down there and stuff like that and come up here and see Toronto and be the king of Toronto in some ways, that's impressive. And that's the thing. Like on the download, these NBA experts, Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal, they may diss Toronto and the team in certain ways and do stuff like that, but they love the city and they absolutely do love being here and stuff. So I think that that perception of the weirdness of Canada and being a lot of it's been killed partly by Drake's style and making our team look more attractive with the red and the black. And then partly just him being around, and then just the city in itself in some ways has changed in some ways. Like we're evolving as a city, Toronto. Like this was a very much hockey first city, and that is not totally the case at this point. Like it is more even than ever right now between Leaf Nation and Raptor Nation. And in some ways, this city is becoming more of a basketball town than a hockey town. And I know that some NHL people, their heads will explode hearing me say that, but that is just the damn truth. And I'll tell you part of the reason why is because this city is a city of immigrants. This is a city of people that have come from other places in the world, and they want to see the multiculturalism and the diversity of the Raptors. They don't necessarily want to see the Leafs and the old white guard of Canada. And that, there's more people, and I'm not trying to push replacement theory like this racist shit that's going on in the States, but I'm just saying there are more people from all walks of life in Toronto, and that they're going to be more likely to want to support the Raptors in some ways. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just how it is. In some ways, it's hockey's own fault for being classist and holding people out of it for so long. It's their own fault that they were, it was a very racist sport in some ways. You hear it still in corners with people saying awful things to people in ice rinks in Western Canada still. It's a very racist, classist sport, and they're getting their due because of this. That basketball is inviting to everyone. If you exclude people, well, then you get what you get, Toronto hockey fans. You get what you get, NHL. And that's just how it is. That's how I look at it. So we're evolving as a city, and that makes it more attractive. This is like in the Vince years, it was a hockey town. It was hockey first, hockey priority, and you felt like a second-class citizen as a basketball team. And that's not the case anymore. We won a championship. We're the creme de la creme. We got Masai Ujiri, and it's not like that anymore. In fact, you listen to the Leaf fans and what they're talking about with their team right now. They wish they had things like the Raptors have right now and stuff like that. So that's a big part of the swing and things that has made it more attractive for free agents here. Is the Raptors in some ways are kings of Toronto in some ways, in sports, in some ways. I will say that partly just because they won the last championship here. The Jays that won the last championship, then they would be the kings of Toronto right now in my eyes. But that it's us. So that's how it is. Summer Lowe saying, well, historically, players will go to big cities to get a chance at more clout and sponsors. Lakers will beat Raptors every time when it comes to free agents. We got to think about motivation, though, Summer. Sure, with certain players. I mean, each player has a different motivation for what they want to do. Kawhi wanted to go home. But still, before Kawhi left, he got some big sponsorship deals with that jet company and different things here in Canada. He went and signed the dotted line, and he's doing some stuff. I would disagree with this as far as like the Lakers beating us every time on this, because once again, we have the whole market of Canada. We have a huge market, and there are huge business deals to be made up here. Kyle Lowry has still got all kinds of stuff going on up here business-wise, even though he's in Miami now and stuff like that. So I would disagree with this. And I think that also, you got to take it by the individual player. Kawhi wanted to go home. This player wants money. This player wants to win. This player wants to be close to Hollywood because they want to be an actor or something like that. That there's always a different reasoning for the motives of the player and why they want to do what in free agency. And what I'll say right now is we're on more equal footing with a team like Miami, a team like LA, a team like Chicago than we have been ever before at this point, is what I'll say. And you're right on individual certain levels. Sure, there's going to be a player that's going to pick the Lakers over the Toronto just because of certain things, their personal things. But I'm going to tell you right now, there are going to be some players that pick us partly because they're a dumpster fire and we are a very well run organization that is doing very well. So it's really by case basis on the individual player and stuff like that. It's the way I look at it. Click 2am saying I only want a center if they can shoot a decent percentage and have good lateral movement to switch onto the perimeter. Yes, yes. I feel like these are the same kind of prerequisites that we should have for a center. And Mobamba, I mean, I don't know how much he's good at, like, how far out he can shoot from, but he's definitely got the second part, the lateral movement to switch and stuff like that. Lolita's saying playing with Scotty Barnes versus LeBron. I personally will pick Scotty. Scotty's on the way up, LeBron down. Yeah, well, age wise for sure. And then, in another way, on a philosophical level, like there's other Laker legends that are coming out. People have been saying that like they need to just get rid of LeBron. The Lakers will not be good until while LeBron's there. I forget who said this recently, but there's a player who came out really scathingly said, "You Lakers, you will not do good unless you get rid of LeBron. You need to get him off your team." And they're right in a way. Listen, it's kind of the point with LeBron with his ego and just where he is as a person in the world. Nobody can tell him what to do. He's kind of like Putin. Putin is insulated and he's like, he will hurt people that say no to him. So he's just got a bunch of yes men around him. So he doesn't have the wherewithal to look outside himself to see how he's fucking up things. Like he has no recognition of that because he can't get outside of himself to see how fucked up he is acting with his team. Because everybody around him saying, "Oh, LeBron, you're so great, you're the best," and stuff. He can't improve or fix this because of that. And that's why I'm saying, like, they're never going to win while he's there. They're going to continue to do this year after year. It doesn't matter what cast he casts each year with random players, young and old. It doesn't matter. They're not going to win with him just because he is in some ways a very negative person to have on your team at this point. And Scotty's the opposite. Like he's all team first. He's like they are the antithesis of each other. Like if there's a yin yang, Scotty Barnes and LeBron James, as far as the future of the NBA, LeBron's on his way out. He's very selfish. He's an egomaniac. He runs teams to the ground. Meanwhile, Scotty is on his way up. He just got in the league and he's all team first. He sacrifices everything for himself for the team. And that is the big difference. And that is the yin yang of that situation. And I agree with it, Lolita. And I think that LeBron is really seriously like, I don't think he's going to win another championship because he stops himself from winning another championship with his own bullshit. Let's see. Click saying there's like 3 Canadians in the lottery this year, I think. That's fantastic. More and more Canadian players. You're exactly right. More Canadian players in the league. More people will maybe want to be free agents and stay here. Like Chris Boucher is a free agent this summer, but he's Canadian and he loves Toronto. Will that factor into whether he takes a deal with us or takes a deal with the Chicago Bulls or something like that? Like that's the thing. Look, you got to look at the individual player. Like Chris Boucher may look at the Lakers and the Toronto decision very different than somebody else. Like if he had the choice to go to the Lakers or he had the choice to go to Toronto and they were going to give the same money, who do you think's going to pick? He's going to pick us. He's not going to go play with LeBron. So it really is a case by case basis with the individual. And because somebody said here that there's going to be more and more Canadians in the league, I think that we will get more better free agents down the road. Like Lou Dort may be more willing to come play for Toronto down the road. People like that, like good Canadian players, Jamal Murray, RJ Barrett, these guys down the road, if they're free agents, they may look at Toronto and be like, I might want to play there and be back in Canada. Some are saying, yeah, top of the lottery seems pretty good up to the top 5. Scary if OKC picks up Jabari or Paolo with their young core already. Yeah, once again, you heard my opinion about OKC and just like they're a farm team. They can have all these draft picks, get all these good players, but they end up leaving before they become like solid pros. They just have a bunch of young guys come through and then they move on and go every which way and stuff like that. So, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this draft goes. Like the top 5, what is it? Shaden Sharp, what is it? Chet Holmgren, Jabari Smith Jr., Paolo Panchero, and Jaden Ivey. These are the top 5 on this mock draft I'm looking at. Yeah, interesting names. That Chet Holmgren guy is interesting from Gonzaga. It was 7 foot tall, and he's a that'll be interesting. All right, let's see. Click saying Ayton wants to be a primary option, but his work ethic does not match that. Okay, that's a good observation. I could see that. Click. I mean, listen, the dude has all the skills in the world and stuff like that. It could be that maybe, I don't know. Suns are a pretty good organization and they run things. But if he was on Toronto, how would he develop here? What would our coaches challenge him with? How much would Nick Nurse put up with? Would he be able to handle Ayton and get more out of him than Monty Williams in some way because of something he does? Like we've seen what he's done with Chris Boucher and how much he's gotten him to mold into who he is now. What would he do with Ayton? Would he be able to get him to get more out of him by motivating him as a coach and saying, like, look, you're not getting anything here for given to you. You have to go and earn it. And if you do not, you want to be a primary scorer for us, well, you're going to have to earn it and show it by putting in the work, showing up and doing everything we ask you and stuff like that. So that's what I would wonder about it. But once again, like the Gobert thing, I'm leaning way far away from doing any big splash as far as a center. That we see the trend in the NBA, the center is dying, and that we don't want to be on the hook for a long-term contract with somebody that may not be very useful in the next few years. Summer's saying, what do you think of Yusuf Nurkic as an unrestricted free agent this summer? He's probably commanding only 12 mil, while Gary Harris is looking for 21 million. Well, I definitely want Nurkic over Harris. I know Harris is a good scorer, and he's done good things for Orlando this past year. But I still feel like he's way too expensive. Like at the top of my free agency list, he's like right up near the top with Kyrie, Bradley, Russell, James Harden, and John Wall. It's like there's Gary Harris in there. I see the names around him. I'm like, does Gary Harris really belong in that stratosphere? Like with Zach LaVine and Ricky Rubio and Andre Iguodala kind of thing. I'm like, I don't know. He's not a name to me, Gary Harris. A lot of people are big on him. They like him as a shooter and a scorer, but not to me. I'm like, on Orlando, you can look real good. You can look real good on Orlando and not be totally that good either. So, but yeah, I like Nurkic. Nurkic would be okay as like a middle thing, like a Bamba. It would be like a Bamba size move, and I'm okay with that. But Nurkic is less mobile. That's the one thing I don't like over him over Bamba. I'd rather have Mobamba than Nurkic if we're going to get one of those two kind of mid-level centers, not superstar, not really bad, right in the middle, stuff like that. So Monique is saying 2 months to go till July 7th, Summer League. Can't get here fast enough. In fact, it's less than 2 months, Monique. Let's talk about how quick it is going to be here soon enough. Kawhi Leonard saying, what's up? He's saying back in 2012, Marc Gasol won Defensive Player of the Year, but wasn't in the All-NBA first defensive team, but instead was included in the All-Defensive second team. What's up with that? I know, that's ridiculous. That would be like if Scotty Barnes was on the all-rookie second team right now. Like that doesn't make any sense at all whatsoever. That is really weird. I didn't know that, first of all. That's an interesting stat. And yeah, I bet Marc Gasol was kind of wondering what the fuck is up, NBA, with that. Because you figure if you're the Defensive Player of the Year, you should be on defensive all-first team. Yeah, that logically didn't make any sense to me. Interesting factoid there, Kawhi Leonard, for sure. Yeah, Summer thinks that's crazy too. Let's see. Yeah, let's see what I just said. Summer's saying there too. Yeah, it's like if he would be on the second team yesterday. They announced the team, and Giddey's in the first team, and Scotty Barnes is on the second team. I'm like, what the fuck? Sue saying, I think that players and former players that talk up Toronto is also helping to give us positive perceptions in the U.S. So many Raptors players or former Raptor players say good things about T.O. Yeah, this is true. Like Kyle and DeMar are not putting us down. They're not going out there and saying shitty things about playing in Toronto. They talk about how badass it was to be in Toronto. I'm sure Norman's the same kind of thing. These guys have a love for the city, a connection to our city that is real. And people see that. Like they see the way that Kyle came back to Toronto and had the love fest with us in the Scotiabank Arena. And they're like, wow, that is like storybook kind of shit that I wish could happen in my career. And then they see that maybe our fan base is the kind of fan base that will do that for heroes of our team. And that may be more attractive. Like that may be attractive to Scotty, is seeing the way that Danny Green got the ovation when he got his ring, the way that Kyle got his return back. He's like, man, I don't ever want to get in the bad books of Toronto Raptor fans because I want to share this love forever for the rest of my life with this city and this team. And yeah, I think that's true. That like even after the Vince era, Vince leaving, and even Bosch, these guys weren't talking us up or talking good about us far away from us. I don't think they were. And if they were doing it privately and they weren't doing it publicly. That it was really kind of like, I'm just glad I got the fuck out of there kind of feeling from them. Like as far as Vince and Chris. That's how I felt when they left Toronto. It was like they were just like glad to get the fuck out of here. And I'm like, what the fuck? And they, they're definitely not like Kyle and DeMar in the way that they even DeMar, like it's amazing that DeMar is glowing about us still, just with the way everything went down. He's such a smart man that he can separate Masai Ujiri making a business move away from his devotion and love for this city, because a less intelligent person wouldn't be able to separate that and would just hate the city all around. And kudos to DeMar DeRozan. Honestly, in my eyes, in some ways, he is he's maybe the greatest Raptor ever in some ways, just because he made the ultimate sacrifice in some ways for us to win a championship. So, yeah, I think that is a big factor, and is that we have a good rep around the league with our former players, is for sure. Let's see. Kawhi saying right on to summer. Sue's saying Toronto is the fourth biggest city in U.S. and Canada. New York City, L.A., Chicago, and then Toronto. In fact, some sources say Toronto is bigger than Chicago, but either way, we're big with population. Yeah, well, we have the most buildings going up, and we do seem like there's more and more people coming here because, I mean, there's so many fucking cranes in downtown Toronto building more and more condos everywhere. So I'm like wondering who these people coming in here. Are they just trying to make money off buildings and stuff like that, off speculation? I don't know. But I've heard that we've gotten recently close to Chicago as far as size, metropolitan size, and that we may actually be equal or just a little bit bigger than Chicago at this point. So we may be moving up this ranking that Sue's talking about, that we're actually maybe almost third by now. We're very equal to Chicago at this point, as far as city and size and greater area and stuff like that. Some are saying, people saying the whole country of Canada is a big market. You do realize California itself has a larger population than all Canada, right? Yeah, I guess you're right. I should think about it that way. It's like I think about it geographically, and I'm like, we've got all of Canada. But it's like there's a lot of areas of Canada where there's nobody there. Yeah, you're right. California does have a huge population, but still, I will say that yeah, you know what, I get your argument, and in some ways if you're doing the market here in Canada, you're kind of cutting yourself off from being marketed in the US. In some ways I get what you're saying. Like there was a lot of that with Vince when he was on our team. He's getting marketed the hell up here, but they weren't pushing him as hard down south in some ways. It's such a weird thing, economics, like a very arbitrary, invisible line that divides U.S. and Canada, and that the U.S. is greedy. They want all the money to stay in the U.S., so they don't want Canada to get extra money from the Raptors winning or getting more exposure or looking better. And this is a big part of the reason why we get dissed so much in the media down there and stuff like that. All right, that's a good point, Summer, and I should take that into account, that LA is more attractive in that way, that there is a bigger population in some ways there. All right, I will give you that one. Seymour saying Maple Leaf versus the world, baby. How about this? I think you should flip this and put the world versus the US flag. Because it's really like the rest of the world is with Canada, it's with Toronto in some ways. Like we have global fans in more places. Like when you take a sample size of just the average person from each country or whatever, and you put them all together, I will bet you that there's a higher percentage of Raptor fans in there. There'll be some Laker fans, there'll be some Knicks fans, there'll be some, Boston Celtics fan, but I'll bet you there's a big percentage of them that are actually Raptor fans. If you're taking countries that are not in North America, around the world and stuff like that. Let's see. Duke saying Canada is a big market for Toronto, but the U.S. market is 350 million. The reason why there is a perception that Toronto is a wasteland is mostly because of U.S. media. Yeah, it's a lot of that. It's a lot of those kind of things. And once you guys tell me these numbers, like, yeah, I got to remember the U.S. is a bigger population than us, and there's maybe more money involved in things down there than opposed to here and stuff like that. I get it, but still, there is a lot of allure for things here as far as things, I still would argue that like it's really impressive to have a coast to coast kind of like following or at audience in some ways. And I guess you could have that coast to coast in the States also, from California to New York and stuff like that. I don't know. I still will argue this, that we're becoming more attractive in some ways. Now, if somebody's more motivated by money and they're motivated by staying home, then they will pick the American teams. If they're motivated by like that kind of exposure, then they will pick the American teams. But I'll tell you, the biggest thing that they'll pick us over is developing themselves, winning, and also possibly getting better contracts down the road, because that's been proven with a lot of our good players that they've gotten good contracts since they left here and stuff like that. So Sue's saying top 10 population: New York City, LA, Chicago, Toronto, Houston, Phoenix, Philadelphia, Montreal, San Antonio, and San Diego. Montreal is on there. That's good. That's good that Montreal is on there, because that may mean we get an NBA team. But the NBA does not want to expand anytime soon. So the way the NBA would end up in Montreal is a team would have to relocate. Like a team that's in trouble would want to have to come there, because they're not going to go over 30 teams at this point. Like that, Adam Silver's made that very clear, that there's no plan to do any kind of expansion anytime soon to more teams, that they want to keep it right at 30. So it's like an existing franchise would have to be up and moved to Montreal for that to happen, is basically how it's going to happen. Yeah, Click's amazed that they're in the top 10 population too. Click's saying also Chris Bosh was at the Junos. That's right, he was at the Junos recently. He was what's her name, Deborah Cox. That's the reason why he was there. Deborah Cox was he was giving an award to her or something like that. I think they dated. I think that's part of the reason why he was there, is because either he dated her or somebody dated her or something like that. But yeah, he was at the Junos. I'll give him that. I mean, I'll give him that. But still, I don't see Chris Bosh as somebody who's really championed the Raptors or really made his connection to the Raptors like very important to him. I don't think it is. I think his connection to the Miami is much more important to him than Toronto and stuff like that. But all right, I'll give him a point for being at the Junos. But I think it was really more his friendship with Deborah Cox is the reason why he was there. Click 2AM saying Scotty saw a lot of things rookies don't see. He saw the greatest player of a franchise retire. He saw someone get a championship ring. He got rookie of the year. He saw the playoffs in playing with and without the fans. Yeah, he got a real good sampler of different things. And I think that it was all good. Like, he was kind of interesting. And it was really lucky that he got to see Danny get his ring. And it's really great that he got to see the ovation that Kyle got and stuff like that. I totally agree with all this. This has been a great experience for Scotty. He said it himself. And he said it's not bad. Not a bad first year is how he's kind of been about it. You can tell he's really excited and happy about it. So we can only hope for the best for next year, then even more better badass year. Him maybe getting a little bit more aggressive and taking over our offense a little bit more. That would be badass. Summer Lowe saying, yeah, I don't know, Sue. How does San Antonio have a lot bigger population than San Francisco or Dallas? Yeah, I don't know if that's right. That doesn't seem right to me either. I think Summer might be right. Maybe she meant San Francisco instead of San Antonio there. I don't know. That's interesting. That list may be a little suspect. Monique is saying, did you see Danny Green rant to Beverly? I love it. What did he rant to him about? I don't know what it was about. Was it about Joel falling on his leg and messing him up? I don't know. Let's see. Summer's asking, what channel is that on? Let's see. Beverly's recent takes have been hilarious, though. There was one point he made I didn't understand when he was arguing for Harden's contract. He said something about because he has a beard. Well, it is kind of like an iconic kind of thing at this point. Like, all these players have different things that are kind of like iconic to them. Some of them, like, James Worthy with the sky goggles. Well, that beard is definitely iconic to James Harden in some ways and stuff like that. It'd be weird if he shaved it all of a sudden. Like, what if James did this? All right, we're getting in the real think tank mode here. What if James this offseason heard all the noise and he's like, man, these people don't believe in me. They think I'm not trying. They think that I'm like wasting my time. I'm just at the strip club all the time. Maybe I'm going to do a new era for me, and I'm going to shave my beard off to signify that I'm actually trying again. And then all of a sudden we see shaved, beardless James Harden next season. They're like, where's your beard, James? And he's like, I decided to get serious. No more strip clubs and beards. It's like, that would be interesting. What a weird turn of events that would be. Stuff like that. Oh man, I want to know what Beverly was talking about too. Summer. Let's see. Summer Lowe saying both JJ and Stephen A. were like, what? What? Yeah. Well, Pat Beverly just wants to get more notoriety and more attention and things like that. It's hilarious. Okay, so Click to Am saying he has a stupid question, but you know what? As a teacher would say, there are no stupid questions in this channel. We will talk about the stupidest things, and I'll do the stupidest things. Remember, I will do impressions. Do you think the recent carjackings in Toronto will impact players wanting to stay here? Like, look what happened with that one Leafs player. Oh man. All right, listen. As a sociologist, somebody who studied grad school, studied crime and deviance and things like this, the reason why this is happening here in Toronto, there's an uptick in carjackings right now, is because that's an easy way for people to make money, and there's a syndicate or some sort of organized crime that wants these cars. What part of the problem is that when the economy is depressed or you've had problems with the pandemic, people are having trouble making money. That's the thing. This is why I'm a big supporter of UBI, Universal Basic Income. And UBI is basically like take care of your basic needs, your house and your food. And then if you want to make more money, go make a job and go do other things and have a life, you do go work, but you have enough to make sure you have what you need. And that's the thing. Crime would be cut in half. All these social problems that people have in their lives would be cut in half because poverty is a choice. The government wants people to be in poverty, and poverty causes the carjackings. Poverty causes the crime. If people get their needs met, their basic needs as far as a roof and food, then they're fine. And then a lot of this stuff goes away, social problems wise. This is what I learned in grad school in sociology. And that this is more indicative of the economic struggles that have been spurned by the pandemic and the different things that have been happening recently. Now, I'll tell you right now, that part of Etobicoke where Mitch Marner was is not a good place to be with a nice car like that. You will get carjacked and stuff like that. Like, I wouldn't be driving a really nice car in certain areas of Toronto. I would just say that. But I don't think that this is a big, huge problem. And I don't think this will dissuade anyone. Like, honestly, the problems, the social problems in other major cities around North America are way worse than in Toronto. That this may get a lot of pub because it's a maple leaf and that's crazy and stuff like that. And it does suck and it does look bad. But, honestly, in some ways, like, I'm not saying it's Mitch Marner's fault. But motherfucker, you better be more careful where you are and what you're doing and stuff like that. Listen, because it could be that you were somewhere you shouldn't have been. And that's what I'll just say in that kind of way. But that's what it is. It's like poverty causes crime and crime is spurned by it. And if we want to solve crime problems, you got to fix poverty. Poverty is the first place you got to fix. So, yeah, I don't think that that's going to make anybody not want to come here. I mean, you can go to LA and you can see like their crime report and all the shit that's going down in LA every day, or Chicago, Milwaukee. Look at what happened in Milwaukee in the last 2 weeks. That's way worse than what's happened here in Toronto and stuff like that. So, yeah, if you're worried about crime turning somebody off from coming to a city, there's other cities that got a way worse problem with that than Toronto. In fact, we may be one of the safest cities in the NBA. So, Click saying rising inflation, more crime everywhere. Yeah, that's a part of it. Is the inflation? We get priced out of being able to take care of ourselves and our lives because of greed. Is basically greed. The inflation has nothing to do with the war or Biden or anything like that. This is greedy motherfuckers. Whether it's the West Ends and their food prices going up, whether it's the gas prices, they are trying to cop a buck and they're using it as an excuse to make record profits. It's not the inflation is by design for profit by greedy motherfuckers at the top. So you start blaming the war, you start blaming these kind of things and stuff like, sure, indirectly in some ways that affects it, but it's also opportunists using it as an excuse to line their pockets and rob us blind as really fat cats at the top. And that's why there needs to be some fundamental changes in our society, is because these people should not be able to price gouge us when we're at our worst economically. And that's a big part of it right there. Okay, so Monique's saying it was on the Green Room, Danny Green's Green Room show on YouTube. All right, I'll have to find that and check that out after this. Sacramento Kings. I'm not sure why I clicked saying that. Sacramento Kings. I don't know what's going on there. Duke saying Bosch is a sellout to me. I agree with this, and I'm with you. I think that Bosch is a sellout also. I think that just the decision and going with LeBron was a sellout move in itself. That, that was a punk ass, like, easy way out. He went from being the number one banana to number 3 banana. And you got some rings and you did all this kind of stuff. But listen, man, you're a Miami Heat guy now. You might as well just go be with Heat Nation. And you're not really a Raptor person anymore with us in some ways. Monique saying Beverly's hate for Chris Paul, shaking my head. Yeah, I mean, these grudges are fun. In some ways, they're fun. You need a little bit of that Lambeer, Rodman versus Bird kind of shit in the league. And Patrick Beverly's a good person for this because he's entertaining. And he's like, honestly, he's okay in the league. He's like a character and he's kind of wild, but he's not too wild that he's a problem and stuff like that. Like, they can rein him in, they can talk to him and stuff like that. But in some ways, it's good for the league to have that adversity, that kind of like, I hate that guy and he hates me kind of thing. Because there's, in some ways, the NBA got too chummy. In the Vince era, he was too nice with everybody. He wanted to be friends with everyone in the whole fucking league, and he didn't have enough of that Bird versus Magic kind of mentality where I want to kill Bird and I hate Bird. And like Carter was too much like, I want to hug Allen and I want to hug Kevin Garnett and I want to be friends with all of my people that I should be trying to kill. And I hated that about Vince. I hated that about him. He was more wanting to be everybody's friend than having that versus. And that's why I respect Patrick Beverly. You should not like all the people in the NBA. You should have people that you do not like in the NBA because that means you care and you're actually trying hard and stuff like that. So let's see. Gary Trent Jr. would beat up Beverly. Well, they got close to that 1 second when they were right in each other's faces in Minnesota that game this season. Yeah, that would have been interesting. I think you're right. If he wouldn't have done it, then I would have seen Gary Trent Sr. get up out of his seat in his coat, his fur coat, and see if he got involved in things up there because he's a big man. He's a very big man. Click saying, you're right, Chicago's real bad. Yeah, different cities have different problems. Like, look, social problems as far as crime problems, Toronto is one of the best, safest cities in North America. Let's not get it twisted. It's just a high profile name like Mitch Marner getting carjacked. It gets all in the paper and people see it. And that may be a real problem in the city right now, that there are carjackings going on and stuff like that. Just be real safe and careful while you're in your car. If you're driving around somewhere, a bad area at night and stuff like that, you got to be careful. You just have to have your wits about you. And it may be that Mitch Marner wasn't being as careful as he needed to be in that moment. And that's what I'm saying. Keep your windows locked and just fucking be smart and like stuff like that. Hit that gas if you have to. Somebody's coming to your window with a gun. You hit that gas and get going. They'll shoot at you, whatever, like that. Whatever. Just get going. Don't hang around. Sue saying at Summer Low, this is the list I saw online on a couple of different sites. I think it may include outlying areas like GTA, like metro area. Not sure. Just writing what I said online. Yeah, knowing from my own personal knowledge of cities in North America, San Antonio is not a big city. Like they really, and I don't think they have a very big greater area. Dallas is definitely bigger than San Antonio. So that is really the red flag there. And Summer caught it too. Is that, did they write it wrong? Like, is it San Francisco? Because San Francisco is bigger than San Antonio. I saw if they put Dallas Fort Worth, it is bigger. Okay. Well, it is. It's all semantics. It woulda, coulda, shoulda. It doesn't matter. But the whole fact of the matter is that Toronto is going to be in the top 5 of metropolitan areas in North America. And that is important, and that should be counted for as far as like those kind of things and stuff like that. All right. Well, I don't know how much more to talk about today. I really appreciate everybody. So many different people talking with me today. Just a Thursday think tank, talking a little bit about DeAndre Ayton and how we probably don't want him because he's not trying as hard as he could, and he wants a max contract, and he may not really fit with our team in a lot of ways, and we may not want to give up what we have to give up to make a sign and trade with Phoenix to get DeAndre Ayton. And then just really happy for Scotty Barnes getting all rookie team. We knew he would, of course, because he's the rookie of the year, the big Roy, and just happy with all different things. Like I said, seeing Pascal on the beach smiling so big and happy, that always makes me happy. Tom Duke, good morning. Great stuff. Have a good one. Thanks, Tom Duke. please, if you like anything I said or anything and stuff like that, I'm here every morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to talk about the Raptors daily. And please hit that red subscribe button so you can join us yourself and talk with me directly, just like everybody else did today, about what's going on. And we figure it out. We're going to talk more and more about the draft in the coming weeks. We're going to talk more and more about possible free agency moves, and we'll just react to the news as it comes during the summer until we get back to NBA action in the fall with the Raptors back on the court, baby. We are all so hungry and happy and waiting for it, even though it's months away and we're still playing in the playoffs from this past year. But it's still, we can't wait. Everybody is that excited about the prospects and the future of the Raptors with Scotty Barnes and the team that we have right now. All right, y'all. Thanks again. Like, comment, subscribe. Let's go Raptors.